I used to make mashed potatoes all wrong. How could such a tiny thing make such a big difference? I don't know. But this tiny thing is when you add the butter. Today we're making mashed potatoes that are incredible and practical because they can be made ahead, even a couple of days ahead. There are 3 common types of potatoes available to us in the US: Red Bliss, Yukon Gold, and Russets. When it comes to flavor, you can't beat Yukon Gold. They are buttery, they're sweet, they're delicious. But I used to have a hard time with their texture when using them for mashed potatoes. But that's because I was adding butter at the wrong time. Now that Cooks Illustrated has opened my eyes to the importance of adding butter first, Yukon Golds have been producing the most amazing mash for me. Let's peel 1.5 pounds of potatoes and cut them into 6 to 8 pieces, depending on potato size. The goal is to end up with pieces of similar size. Cover them with cold water by about 1 inch and set over high heat. Add enough salt to make the water taste like tears. Potatoes need a lot of salt, so don't be stingy. I'm using Diamond Crystal Kosher salt, which packs only half the sodium of table salt in any given volume, so the amount probably looks even more shocking. How much you'll need will depend on which salt you use. Cover and bring to a simmer, watching carefully to avoid a boil over. Uncover, reduce the heat so that potatoes simmer very gently, and cook uncovered for about 20 minutes or until potatoes are tender. While our potatoes are cooking, we'll cook the onion topping. It's completely optional if you've never had it before, but once you try it, there is no going back. In a stainless steel pan, melt 2 tablespoons of butter over medium heat. Add 1.5 diced yellow onions and a generous pinch of salt. Stir the onions to integrate the salt, tuck in the ones that end up on the walls, and cook without disturbing until the onions begin to turn golden. Stir and let them brown again. My onions were very large and I decided that I needed more fat. I could certainly add more butter, but the olive oil bottle was closer, so that's what I added. Keep cooking the onions, stirring occasionally until they are completely translucent and golden. About 15 minutes. By the way, if you need help with onion dicing, look below this video for a link. Be patient with these onions and don't turn up the heat too high or they'll taste dry. Now our onions are done and it's time to check the potatoes. Pierce a few pieces with a knife. If you feel no resistance and the potatoes slide right off the knife, they are done. Drain them in a colander and return back to the pot. Set the pot over medium-low heat and cook the potatoes, stirring occasionally until absolutely all the water dries up. If you don't remove this excess moisture, the potatoes will taste grainy. Stir the potatoes a few times to help them dry up evenly. When they start looking more pale than yellow, they are dry enough. Dump them back into the colander and add 4 tablespoons of butter to your pot. Put the potatoes through a rice or a food mill if you want a perfectly smooth texture. If you don't mind an occasional lump, you can leave them in the pot and mash them with a potato masher. Add some black pepper and mix them very thoroughly with butter. Adding butter to the potatoes first keeps them from becoming grainy once more liquid ingredients like cream or milk are added. I've noticed that with Red Bliss potatoes it doesn't make much of a difference, but with Yukon Gold it does. I was very skeptical when I read about this tip, but surprisingly it works. Let's mix in 1/3 cup of sour cream for a bit of tang, and 1/3 cup of whole milk to thin out our potatoes. This thinning out step doesn't seem necessary now, but the potatoes will become stiff very quickly, so trust me, add the milk. I like to switch to a whisk at this point. Don't forget to taste for salt, but be careful not to eat all the potatoes. This is the hardest step in making of this dish. Pile them into a buttered casserole dish and top with onions. Cool them to room temperature, then put them into the fridge for about an hour to cool completely, and only then cover with plastic wrap. Otherwise, the plastic wrap will trap the steam. Get the potatoes out of the fridge 2 hours before you want to serve them. Bake them in the middle of the preheated 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes or until puffy on the edges and heated through. An instant read thermometer should read at least 150 Fahrenheit. If you don't have a thermometer, insert a paring knife into the center of potatoes for 5 seconds and check if the knife comes out hot. The happiest and the most delicious moment of shooting all the Thanksgiving videos this year was eating these mashed potatoes straight out of the baking dish. It's the joy that everyone should experience at least once in their lifetime. This video was brought to you by viewers like you. If you liked it, click here to support my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the little bell button for notifications, and if you're ever in the Boston area, maybe I'll see you in one of my classes.